Hey, Middle-aged Gamers, we are back and Adam is here. Apologies for last week. Things happen, life gets real. So this week, it might seem like not a lot going on, especially with just Hollow Knight everywhere. And now I was watching Instagram this morning and that song from Silk Song. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a pretty catchy song, but it is freaking everywhere on shorts, and I'm like, it's not that catchy. But anyway, today, Adam's going to be talking about Void Crew's console release, which is very incidental because I've been playing Void Crew for the last 2 Sundays and absolutely loving it. His second story is going to be about a game called Metal Eden, which sounds very interesting. I'm curious about that. And the last story is going to be about Sims 4 Adventure Awaits. Hopefully I heard that correctly. On my side of the show, we're going to be talking about the Borderlands 4 endgame. And again, if you played previous Borderlands games, you would know, or at least I felt like the end game in previous Borderlands games was pretty much non-existent. So I'm excited for this. And I'm going to talk about the Life is Strange TV show because I loved the first game, even though it took me I think I finished it on the third time of installing it and playing it. And don't forget to hang out towards the end of the show. You guys loved last week's Adam's discussion questions about back in our day. Today he's going to talk about another Reddit question, which do you prefer, like XP-based mechanics in RPGs or use-based mechanics? And the second question would be, 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙥𝙦 made a really cool comment which applies to a lot of different things, so stay around for that. But Adam, tell us about Void Crew and its console release.
Yeah, so Void Crew, I mean, if you're on PC, this is not news. This game came out in November 2024, so this has been out almost a year on PC, but it has just gotten its console release. I think it was on the 6th, if I remember, but it's just out over this last week. So if you don't know what Void Crew is it is a 1 to 6 player game where you and your buddies are all people on a ship and you are flying your ship through space and going through various missions. You have different classes that you can pick from. You can be a pilot, you can be a gunner, you can be an engineer, you can be a scavenger. Each of those classes are going to have their own specialties. Obviously the pilot's going to be really good at flying a ship. A gunner's going to be better at using guns and whatnot. And you also can get, there's tech trees. So as you play through the game, it's kind of like a League of Legends system where every single time you play, you're going to gain experience, and then you're going to, be able to level yourself up. And then in the next session, same thing, you reset at level 0 and you're going to have to work your way up again. That's pretty cool. They're going to have a bunch of different ships that you can pick. So you can choose a bigger ship, if you have a full crew. If you're a smaller crew, you can pick a smaller ship. And it is, in fact, 1 to 6 players, because if you are on your own, you can actually set up kind of these AI setup things. They're not AIs, it's like a brain in a jar, but you can get this kind of, you can get auto turrets or things like that to help you out. And then just pick a smaller ship that's easier to use. So yeah, it's really great if you're into that sort of thing. Basically, the way the missions are going to be is you get in your ship, you go out into space, and then you're gonna bring your ship online. You gotta get the engines up and running and get everything working, and then you're gonna be choosing your objective. So it might give you 3 different objectives, and you can look at them, and it says okay, in this mission, you're going to fight these guys, and you can get this cannon. Or if you go to this mission, you can get this engine module. If you do this mission, you can do that, and you can pick which one you want. Then you go to that, fly out to it, and then you fly around and do what you want. So overall, it looks really, really cool. If you're repairing your ship or something like that, they kind of have this like a Helldiver stratagem thing, where you're having to hit the arrows to match so it's kind of like a puzzle. It's not just like I've been playing Wildgate, and that's the game that I can compare it to. There you just kind of have a multi-tool where you just kind of aim and point and click, and it just heals things over time. But this has a little more of a puzzle element to it. Yeah, and then also another difference there is in Wildgate, boarding is the current meta, where people will just jump off their ship, jump on your ship, hit the reactor. Your ship will start to overheat. It'll catch on fire. You're putting out fires. You can get some ship-to-ship combat, but a lot of times it does kind of devolve into boarding operations and whatnot, whereas this is much more focused on ship-to-ship kind of things, where you're in your ship, you're using the guns on the ship. You can get out and explore some things and gather stuff, so that is a part of it. But if you're like us, like me and my friends, we've been playing, and we were like, oh, we really wanted to play this game because we really like the idea of us all working together on a ship. and somebody's piloting and somebody's using the guns and that sort of thing. That's really what we wanted. And with Wildgate, we weren't really getting that. So this looks like it's going to be a much better option for us, because we do play on console. We're all on console. Myself and one other guy have a gaming PC, but the other two guys, one of them doesn't, and the other has a Mac. So it can be a little bit hard to get, game on PC sometimes. So now that this is on console, that's really, really good. Now, another comparison to another game is also to Jump Space. I'm sorry, they changed the name recently to Jump Space. And Jump Space is not out yet, but they are very similar. But there are some differences, especially in that Void Crew seems to be more of a space sim, whereas Jump Space seems to be a little bit more arcadey. For example, in Void Crew, when you're flying your ship, it's going to have a little more drift to it, or you have to use thrusters to kind of get the nose of your ship in a certain direction, and it's going to kind of drift. Whereas in Jump Space, it's just kind of like fly around like a Star Wars ship, that doesn't really have you don't really have that momentum or whatnot. But one thing that does make it very different is in Jump Space, you do have full 360 movement. You can flip yourself upside down, whereas Jump Ship is more of a submarine in space, similar to Wildgate, where you're basically on a plane and you can move up and down and left and right, but you can't flip yourself upside down. That is a little disappointing to me. I would like that. There was an old, it was on the Super Nintendo, Star Trek game where they had that, where you could flip yourself upside down and it's all full 3D. That was really cool. I always really liked that in space. But, can't have everything. So, but yeah, if you are interested in a game, if you got a bunch of friends and you guys want to get on a ship together and you guys want to, pilot and gun and do all that sort of thing, you kind of want that kind of yelling at each other, like, what are you doing? The reactor's overheating. Fix that, that sort of thing. Check out Void Crew. It's on PC. It is on console. I'm not sure. Does it have cross progression? Do you know? Or does it have crossplay? I would assume so.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly don't know as well. And I know on the PC side of things, like, it doesn't have what like some games have, where like a Grounded 2 has this, for example, where if you, me, and Antoine were playing Grounded 2, for example, right? Even if you were not hosting the game, I could still play in our world and make some progress and craft some things, for example, right? So Void Crew does not have that. It still has to say whoever's the host is the only one who can sort of start the game. And it's like, if you want to log on and play around with your upgrades and your stats and that sort of stuff, you have to wait until the host comes back in order to do that.
Okay, yeah, it is a session-based game. It's not like a perpetual world kind of thing. But I just looked it up, and yes, it does have full cross-play support. So if you are on PC and you are on console, you can play with your friends, and they can play with you. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean, when Adam mentioned it, I'm like, oh, this is coincidental, because I've actually been loving this. My brothers and I played this on Sunday, and due to the time difference, I think we finished playing at like 11:20 p.m. on Sunday, and we usually stop at 11. And it was such like an exciting end game, because I think the first 1.5 hours we played, it was like, okay, we're getting used to it, we're figuring things out. And the second hour, we're like, okay, now we're getting this more. Okay, we understand the game. And our last sort of session it went so well, and I was so excited. I could not fall asleep Sunday, and I was super tired on Monday because of that. But I'd highly recommend this. And even if you don't have friends to play with, you can still play this game solo, because there is a one-person ship in this game. And it still gives you the fact like, hey, oh my God, my ship is damaged. I need to turn off the engine, go around, repair stuff. Or, hey, my ship is really damaged outside. I need to spacewalk. So I need to open up the interior door, close the interior door, put on the spacesuit, depressurize the chamber, open up the exterior door, walk outside the ship, put on the hull plating. I'm like, oh my God, no, there's 2 hull plating. I need to come back inside, use the fabricator in the ship, manufacture some more hull plating, and then go back outside again. So there's lots of like cool, if you can imagine, like there was a Star Trek episode where you did, well, I should say you did that, but like in the show, one person did like a ship, was piloting a single ship, and they had to do that sort of stuff. So highly recommended, super fun. My younger brother was the one who suggested it, so good on him. But a great game, and again, I don't think you'll be doing too much shouting, because it's not too hectic, like a Helldivers game, for example. because when you go into an area, right, you're not attacked straight off the bat. You still have time. And I don't know, there's some story about this game. It doesn't really matter, really. But yeah, it is, when you go into each area and you're doing a mission, there is time for you to sort of say, okay, guys, this is what's going to happen. Let's plan it out. And even in the mission itself, like, it's still like, okay, we died, the ship got destroyed, let's restart over. And like each run or each mission is maybe anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes at the most. So this is one of those things, like, again, if you are older gamers, if you are playing with someone who has kids or something, and you can get a full 1 hour in, you can still get at least 1 to 2 missions in, depending on that.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Definitely. Okay, so my first story is going to be about Borderlands 4's endgame. So Borderlands 4 drops this week, and its endgame might be the series' best loot treadmill yet. So again, if you've been a big Borderlands 4 or Borderlands fan, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of the humor stuff. I'm not a funny person in general, but I love the guns, I love the shooting, I love the jumping and the sci-fi stuff and the mechanics, and it's awesome. The characters are decently funny. Some people enjoy it more than others. But in Borderlands 4, right, once you finish the game, you get to unlock Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. And so what that does is enemies will scale globally. There are 5 difficulty tiers. The best way to compare it to is like the Division. I'm sure Diablo might be something like this, but I didn't play the last Diablo. But basically in the Division, once you finish the story, you have difficulty tiers in the game. And as you progress through the difficulty tiers, you unlock higher difficulty tiers. So Borderlands 4 is doing almost the same thing, where you can progress through these difficulty tiers, getting better loot, getting better gear. And then that's cool, right? Like, I always wanted a shooting game where you could do that sort of thing. Beyond that, right, you get wildcard missions, right, which is a remix of a story mission. You get dedicated drops across Kairos to push you to hunt varied enemies, not just one boss loop. So think of it like, and Borderlands maps are pretty huge as well. You know, in some games going back 10, 15 years maybe, you know, you just go to this loop. And even in Warframe, you could do this as well, where like, okay, I want to get the best gear. Let me just rerun this mission 100 times, and I'll get this gear from this particular mission. So you cannot do that in Borderlands, again, which is, and I've heard people complain about this, like, I want it to be easy. I want it to be the best use of my time. I don't want to run around the entire game map driving my whatever car or flying thing to sort of find this particular boss, kill him, and repeat over, you know, ad nauseum. I think is the right word or phrase, yes. You also have Moxie's big encore machine. So you get to spend Iridium to instantly rematch any boss you've beaten, no save, reload shenanigans. So that will save you some time, which is nice. You've got a weekly big encore boss, weekly wildcard missions with a guaranteed legendary and hidden Maurice black market machine. New location, so this machine moves around weekly. You get to go there and buy some cool stuff. That is pretty cool. You get fur-wear gear sets, Borderlands' first true set bonuses, minor, major, full. They drop as early as level 25. So think of them, again, going back to the Division, where the Division had different gear sets depending on the kind of player you were. Some do a lot of actual physical damage in the game. Some do like bonuses to like your support roles. So Borderlands is going to have gear sets, which is pretty nice. You're going to have post-campaign progression tree, a spiritual successor to the badass Guardian ranks. So no more badass ranks. And again, if you've never played a Borderlands game, was basically after you hit max level, every level after that gives you like a 1% bonus to this or 1% bonus to that. So it basically expands this whole system and doesn't make it as simple as the badass system was, and gives you a lot more variability. Again, because I played the Division recently this year, which is why it's always on my mind. The Division had the same thing where you had like shade tech ranks, and every level you got similar to badass, but you could do it to damage, you could do it to electronics ability, you could do it to different abilities, allowing you to sort of spec into the way that you play the game. And the last thing, though not launching when the game launches, we get free invincible bosses. They arrive at the end of 2025, so the end of December sometime. And that's about it. So yeah, this looks like really a big different Borderlands game. I've seen a few people like some of the channels Adam and I watch cover this, which like they really want you to come back to the game and stay and play the game because I mean typically with a Borderlands game you're playing 40, 60 hours maybe and then you're done, right? That's it. So it looks like Borderlands is going for, and I don't want to use this phrase, a live service game, in the sense of like, hey, play this Borderlands game, keep playing it, make from a content creation perspective, make some interesting build videos, make some this is how you defeat this boss the fastest way videos. And I'm excited about it. I wish I had time to play it, but I'm doing Silksong for Mag, and I'm doing Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar for my own channel, and that's about as much time as I have to make videos. But yeah, if you're looking for Borderlands 4, drops later on this week. Check it out. If you're planning to buy it, let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, this is another one of those games where my friends pick it up, I'll pick it up, but I don't think I'll be playing it solo. I played Borderlands 2, absolutely loved Borderlands 2. Played Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I enjoyed it, but not as much as I enjoyed Borderlands 2, strangely enough. I don't know. I know a lot of people really like it, but I think I preferred Borderlands 2. Yeah, I mean, it looks... I skipped Borderlands 3, I skipped the pre-sequel. But yeah, it seems like I've seen a lot of things like they said. There's no more shared loot, so you know, get individual loot, so you don't have to worry about people stealing stuff and grabbing stuff before you have a chance. Looks like they're trying really hard to kind of grab that audience back.
Definitely. Speaking of a new audience, perhaps tell us about Metal Eden.
Yeah, so Metal Eden is it's a new game that yeah, it's a new game. It just came out. It's on PC. I think it might be on yeah, it's on console as well, I believe. Yeah, no, it is. Never mind. Not I believe. It is. It is out on console. It's on Xbox and it's on PlayStation. So this came out actually a little bit, yeah, about a week ago. This is on September 2nd, and this is known as a fast-paced FPS. So basically, I've seen a lot of people kind of comparing it to Titanfall, not in the giant mech regard, but in the mobility regard. So this is a single-player game only. There's no multiplayer, so it's kind of like Doom in that regard. You know, we went through a lot of multiplayer FPSs for a really long time, and a lot of people were saying, you know, can't we just get back to single-player campaigns and FPSs, or just get back to single-player FPSs? And it seems like we've been getting a few lately, and this is another one of those. So like I said, this one is all about the movement. You know, you have wall running, you have a grappling hook, you have like a bullet time ability where you can slow things down. It even has like a Metroid ball form where you get into a little ball and you roll around and just kind of, you know, fly through the levels that way. You get a jetpack so you can fly around. So, you know, there are lots of mobility and also lots of functionality. So you have a huge variety of weapons, and actually every weapon, I believe, has multiple functions to them. So you can actually use them for different things. One of the examples that I saw was I believe it was some kind of electronic weapon, maybe a rifle of some kind. So it would shoot electricity, but you could also use it to freeze enemies, and so you'd freeze them in place, and then you could shatter them or whatever. They also had an SMG, but the SMG could also throw out fire bombs, you know. So if you're a fan of like the old school, what was that game, Perfect Dark, where every weapon had a secondary function, you know, you're going to have that. So every weapon, you can use it for at least 2 different things, which is really, really cool. Now, the story is kind of basic. What people said is, you know, it's just kind of one of those, we're going to tack on a story so that there's an excuse to be in this world. But, you know, it's not really super important. Basically, the idea is humans have achieved immortality by uploading their consciousness to the cloud. You know, so it's kind of a transhuman thing. So they uploaded all their consciousness into the city. I believe it was called Mobius or something like that. And it was on a planet that turned out to be not the best choice of planets to build a city on. So they have you, which are you are a hyper unit, which is just some kind of specialized android, you know, 3D printed human in a suit kind of thing. You're powered by a phantom core, which I guess is your soul or your memories or whatever. But yeah, they can just reprint you over and over and over again, which is why you can die and come back. And you're going to be running around trying to collect these consciousnesses throughout the city so that you can take them somewhere else, which is hopefully in better condition. So that is kind of your excuse for being in the game. So yeah, from what I've heard of reviews, people are saying it's a lot of fun. If you really enjoyed like Titanfall 2, a lot of people really enjoyed the single player campaign. They thought it was great. If you were a fan of that and you kind of miss, that, then this would be a great game to take a look at. It's supposed to be pretty fast paced. And yeah, it's got kind of a cyberpunk aesthetic to it. You're fighting a lot of robots and whatnot. So yeah, check it out, Metal Eden. Out now, and currently it has a very positive review score on Steam, so it seems like a lot of people are.
Man, it looks beautiful. Like, I was a little bit worried when you were talking about it. I'm like, okay, maybe this is not going to look that great, but it is a good looking game. Currently 10% off on Steam, so like 30 something dollars here in Taiwan. I guess it's $34.99 when I saw the US price on Google. But it is honestly impressive, right?
Yeah. It looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge shooter fan. I'm more of an RPG guy. Or maybe kind of an action style game. But if I was going to play a shooter, this would definitely be on the list.
Yeah, no, I have not played like a good shooter maybe I have, I just forgotten, but like I can't think of a shooter I've played in a while. Yeah, I honestly can't. And I'm wanting to play one. Yeah, maybe this will be it. See.
Yeah, I'll play them in multiplayer, but single player.
Yeah, no, exactly. Single player. 100%. I'm totally down with that. Oh wow, I love the AI disclosures at the bottom of every game now.
Yeah, they always say like, oh, this game uses AI for this or this or.
Yeah, and for them, it's like they used it for voiceover content, partially used it for voiceover content, which I think is perfectly acceptable if you're an indie game.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they used it to do the voices or if they used it to kind of take voices and then synthesize them to make them sound different. Fighting robots. I wonder if they're. Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, is the AI generating content or is the AI a filter over man-made content?
You could do both, right? Like, I mean, you could go with like that famous company 11 Labs and they generate voices. So all right, and I'll move on to my last story for today, because I'm just doing two. So Life is Strange is getting a TV show. Prime Video just greenlit Life is Strange. So can Max and Chloe's time-twisting queer coming-of-age hit land on TV? That is a very good question. So if you don't know what Life is Strange is, Life is Strange was a choose-your-own-adventure style story game in the... What is that studio that did all those games?
Telltale?
Like, Telltale, yes! That is what I'm talking about. Where, you make a choice and the game goes a particular way. And I loved the first game. It was I think the only sort of game like that I played, because I have The Walking Dead, I have the Batman game, which I've never finished. I don't think I think I started it once. And I loved anything to do with time and time manipulation, which is why I loved this game. And why I was kind of disappointed by the other games, because they didn't focus on Max and there was no time stuff. It was just, there were other powers and other things involved in the other Life is Strange games. But so it was a story. It was a really, really cool story, roughly 15 to 20, I would say, no, probably about 10 to 15 hours, depending what you did in the game. Came out to critical acclaim, and lots of people loved it. It did really well. I mean, that's why they made a whole bunch of other games, I think ending with last year's Life is Strange game, where they brought the character of Max back. This particular TV show is focused just on the very first game, and it's done by Charlie Covell, who did the TV show The End of the Effing World, which, again, I don't know that TV show. I remember seeing it on Netflix at some point, but also probably not for me. Who's producing it? Square Enix with a Lucky Chap, I guess, which is another part of a studio owned by Robbie. Again, you should be pretty familiar with that very famous Australian actress who did the Barbie movie and Story Kitchen, along with Amazon. So as I said, it's going to be focusing on Arcadia Bay, where the first game and the story happened between Max and Chloe. No release date just yet, but given that it's not like a Lord of the Rings TV show or anything like that, I think we could potentially see this at the end of 2026. if we're lucky, maybe there's another Life is Strange game in the works, so there's going to be a release, and they'll probably sort of time it together and put all those two things together. Why this matters, right, is because Prime Video has been really on top of things with video game sort of releases, with Fallout doing really well. Also, expectations are high, right, because they have been putting a lot of money into the TV for original series. Of course, they want everyone to subscribe to Amazon Prime Video. So now the thing I'm worried about is, again, as a liberal, as a left-wing person, right, this is a story about two girls who fall in love and this sort of stuff, right? Like, it is, given the current climate around the world, and not just in America, right, where, people are like, yeah, no, this is a Christian stuff and this is bad and gay people are bad, etc., etc., etc. I'm worried about this actually coming to life because, we've seen pushback from people of like, hey, this is not good. And then Amazon themselves, or the CEO, the former CEO of Amazon, has been cozying up to President Trump, in order to get contracts for SpaceX, or to compete against SpaceX with the space stuff. And I could easily see Donald Trump saying, if he's still alive next year, saying, hey, I think this show is not good. Fix it, please. If you're not going to fix it, we're going to do X, right? The tariffs are also happening, which is influencing Amazon's business into the United States. So I love the idea. I think going back 10 years in the world, I mean, not just even here in Asia as well, we've seen the rise of Sanseido in Japan, which is another conservative party, which is challenging the LDP, which is like the central left's party control of Japan. Korea just went through their Donald Trump phase with the equivalent of their Donald Trump, and thank God he's out, because he tried to do military, what is that called? What is that called when the military takes over? Not a coup. Not a coup. The military takes over a city.
Martial law.
Yeah, he enacted martial law, right? We saw that earlier this year, and then he was removed from office, right? So, it's a wonderful story. I think you should try and support this as much as you can. I'm sure there'll be social media and that sort of stuff coming up pretty soon, and we should voice our enthusiasm for the show. So as Amazon, we should say, hey, lots of people love this, or 1 million people follow this TV show social accounts. This is something we should fight for, regardless of political pressure from some places. But yeah, keep an eye for this next year. My guess is December of 2026.
Yeah, I played part of the first game. My wife likes to watch certain games, especially story-heavy ones. So she was watching, for instance, she was watching me play Death Stranding 2, and she was really enjoying it. I was doing all the like delivery stuff when she wasn't around, but when she was around, I would just go like straight through the stuff. And then after I beat it and I was like completing all the extra stuff, she's like, "No more story." Like she's just like she's like, "Why are you playing this game if there's no story left?" But she really loved like the Telltale game. Really loved Walking Dead, especially. We played Until Dawn. She really liked these kind of games. So when I saw that this one, I think it was on sale. Maybe it was part of one of PS Plus's free games. I'm not sure, but maybe it was on sale. But I got it, and I was like, oh, I have this game. It's really popular. We should play it. Played like chapter 1, and then we started like halfway through chapter 2, and she's like, yeah, I'm bored of this. She had no interest in it. I was very surprised. But yeah, so I never finished the first one, and I haven't played any of the other ones. But I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I bought the soundtrack after the game. I finished the game. Honestly, would highly recommend the game if you're looking for something a bit slower, story-based. I guess like after Gone Home, this would be the only second story game I finished, perhaps, that I can remember anyway, that like really stuck with me. But speaking of things that have stuck with you because you've never stopped playing this series, The Sims 4.
Yeah, I haven't stopped since I got into The Sims with The Sims 2, but I haven't, because I played a little bit of the original ones, but my sisters were big into Sims 2, and then So I've been keeping up with them. I haven't been getting all the packs for Sims 4 because I think somebody did the math. It'd be like over $1,000, something like that, easily if you wanted to do it. But they do have a new pack out, and it does, and it's kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. One, it's just a new pack. They're always interesting. But then two, apparently they said that they're gonna be kind of taking a break for a while, so they might not be focusing on these expansions for a while. It might be a little while before we get the next one, which is kind of sad, especially because they recently came out and said, well, we're not going to be doing Sims. We are going to be sticking with Sims 4 in perpetuity. And the excuse as to why is a little disappointing. I don't know if you heard, but they said the reason that they're not doing Sims 5 is because they said, well, people are so invested in Sims 4. You know, they have these worlds, they have these characters. If we made Sims 5, they would have to start over, and that would be disrespectful to the player and disappointing to the player. And a lot of people are like, you start over in the Sims all the time. That's constantly what people do. I mean, yeah, people actually absolutely do generation after generation, but yeah, what a weird excuse for not wanting to create a new game, especially when it's what everybody wants. But anyway, we do have a little bit on this particular expansion. It is releasing on October 2nd, which is actually pretty soon. And this actually had a leak, so people were aware of this a while ago, but now it's been officially released, or eventually announced. It is called the 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦 Expansion Pack, and it's going to be full of quite a few interesting things. So first of all, we're getting new getaways. So those are kind of like little vacations that you can go on. You know, you can rent a house or whatever, go somewhere. And you can choose how long these are going to be. These can last days or longer. And if you want, you can even set up some challenges that your Sims will have to do while they are on getaways. So, you know, like maybe you want to hike a certain mountain. Maybe you want to craft certain things, or maybe you want to gain certain skills or something like that. So you can set challenges for them to complete while they're on it. And you can actually turn it into kind of a like a what are they called? Ah, shoot, now I lost my name. The TV that's based on real life. I don't remember what it's called now. The weird
Reality TV?
reality TV. That's the word. Yeah, so they can make kind of like reality TV. For example, they actually even have in the trailer, they show a specific getaway where it's supposed to be like Love Island. It's called Love Highland. And so you go in there and you have to form relationships with people. And if you're not getting those relationship gains, then you're kicked out. So you can actually set up challenges. And if they don't meet them, you can actually eliminate people from these events. So you can actually, yeah, you can get eliminated, create your own little reality TV show, which is pretty cool. And of course, they're adding summer camps for children. So, you know, children can go to summer camp. They can, you know, skills, they can have fun, that sort of thing. That's really cool. You know, they're adding a lot of fun new things. They're adding a new competitive trait. So if you're not familiar with the Sims, they have, or Sims 4, they have traits, and the traits will basically determine the kind of things that they want to do. And if you can complete those, then you're going to get certain bonuses. For example, if you are, I think there's one trait where it's all about socializing. And so if you can max out that trait, then every party you have is just basically going to be success. You're just gonna have a best part. You're just throw the best parties and that sort of thing. If you can complete all the little things along the way. One other thing that's really cool is we're going to be able to build custom playgrounds. So they're modular. You can put the different pieces in different parts, and you can make them bigger or smaller, which is pretty cool because a lot of times, usually, the only thing that's really modular is your house. You can't really combine things like this, but the fact that you can here, it's actually really cool. I really like the idea of creating more modular things like that. I think it's really fun. Imaginary friends are making a return. So those were in Sims 3. And it looks like they're going to work fairly similarly, where they start off as a little doll, and your Sim, the child Sim, can play with the doll, and then the doll can turn into like this kind of creepy looking Muppet thing, and follow them around and that sort of thing. But only they can see them in their human form. You know, everybody else just sees them as a doll, which is kind of interesting. There's new skills. We got papercraft, you know, so like folding paper airplanes or origami, that's entomology, you know, study of bugs, go through there. Diving, which I've been wanting in The Sims 4 for a long time. They didn't have a diving board. Finally, they're adding diving boards. Thank God. And then archery, which is really cool. And then we get new water activities as well. Like I said, the diving boards. We also get some kayaks. We get some water slides. So, a lot more of that sort of thing. And some new exercise equipment, bikes and free weights and whatnot. So all in all, it looks really cool. It's going to come with a new world. All these expansions usually do. It's going to have a new world. That world's going to have 3 neighborhoods. Each neighborhood is going to have its own getaway. So definitely looking forward to this one. I've been looking forward to a couple of the Sims expansions, but I haven't picked one up in a really long time. Usually around Christmas, they go on sale like 50% off, or I'll pick up a couple of them, a bunch of different. So maybe around Christmas this year, I'll indulge myself and grab a few new expansions. But yeah, looking forward to it. It looks like a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to some game like The Sims coming up. After you played 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢𝙧, I was like, okay, cool, this is nice. But I kind of feel like, maybe more things at 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢 are sort of trickling out a little too slowly. They did have that whole tropical island thing, and I was like, okay, yeah, but I don't know. I'm waiting for 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢 to be finished maybe, and then I can dive into that, because I really want to play something like this, but I don't see myself going back to a Sims game. Like, I'm looking for something new. Maybe that's 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢, maybe that's what do they call it? Paralyze, I guess is one of the other, other alternative, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I was super disappointed, and so not that disappointed in the game itself, but just disappointed that it kind of felt very underbaked. It definitely, it has a lot of good bones. It can definitely get there, but it's not there yet. They definitely need to make it feel a little more lively. The Sims is goofy. It's kind of cartoonish, and it feels very lively. Whereas 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢 felt very clinical in a way, I guess would be the best way I could describe it. It just kind of felt kind of beautiful and very clean, but it didn't have that kind of weird little goofiness to it. So hopefully they'll get to that. I'm very disappointed that the Life by You did not pan out. That was very disappointing. I have a feeling that one on release probably would have been a little bit basic as well, but I think that they were on the right path. I think they had the right idea, and they did have some of the experience of people that had worked on The Sims before, so I think they had a good pedigree. So it was very disappointing that did not pan out. But yeah, these are my Zen games. These are when I'm like feeling stressed out. I've had a long week, and I'm just like, I just need to go in this, take the dog for a walk, and we're just gonna take it to the vet because he got sick. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It's a good way to relax.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, I don't have a Zen game because there's always things I want to finish. Yeah, but for me, that would be like my farming games, my Story of Seasons, like the Stardew Valley poster that I just got the other week as well, stuff like that. Okay, Adam, so we had a cool question that we found on Reddit. RPG leveling mechanics, XP based or use based? So in most RPGs, you'd level up in some way. To my knowledge, there's 2 main ways it's implemented. Level up via XP, Fallout series, Cyberpunk 2077. By killing enemies and completing quests, your XP meter fills up until you level up and get skill points that you can spend on pretty much anything. Level up via use, Skyrim KCD. You're gonna have to tell me what KCD is. When doing stuff, you level up specifically that skill, as well as getting some points you can spend to unlock perks for the skills you've learned. Personally, I was always a huge fan of the latter. I feel it's more rewarding seeing your character grow in an area. ...
Look up KCD. I should read. Yeah, I don't remember what KCD means.
I'm gonna look it up as well. Then
let's see. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I was like, wait, KCD, what? And I was sort of talking about an acronym for a game, and I'm like, oh yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yeah. When it comes to leveling, I am definitely a fan of use to level up your skills. The more you're trying to be stealthy, the stealthier you get. The more you're using your bow, the better your bow skills are. The more you use the sword, the better your sword skills are. I really like that over just straight XP, especially because, like, with straight XP, usually the only way you get it is by killing enemies. Whereas when you have a use case, you can go a completely peaceful route and still level up because you're getting it from, you know, cooking or things like that. What I would like to see more games do, though, I think if I remember correctly, now I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, Ultima Online kind of did this, where you could level up your skills, like say lumberjacking, cutting down trees, and then you go to fishing for a long time, and over time your lumberjacking level would go down, you know, because it's like, oh, you know, it's kind of a use it or lose it kind of situation. I would love to see games that did that, where you know, maybe there's a skill cap, so instead of going like Skyrim where you can just max everything, it's like, no, there's a certain cap, and as you're using certain skills, other skills that you're not using are going down. And so, you know, but then make it, you know, maybe give you some sort of bonus, so like if I switch back to using a bow or something like that, I gain it faster. You know, it's kind of like riding a bike, it comes back quickly. I think that would be really fun for some dynamic gameplay, you know, where you can't be good at everything, you can be really good at something, but I think that would be a really fun leveling system. But in general, I prefer use it.
I totally agree with you. Like, when I saw this question, I thought my answer would be the same. To me, when I played Skyrim, I was like, man, this is cool. Like, I love using a bow, and then the bow skill just went up. And I'm like, that's a nice way of doing things. And I really wish more games did it, because I mean it's fun. And I feel like beyond Skyrim and Kingdom Come Deliverance, there are sort of smaller indie games where I feel like I've seen this system before, or even maybe some MMOs that I might have seen a video or two about them, where they're like, yes, do this and this thing goes up. But I think it's a wonderful system.
Death Stranding. Death Stranding 2 used that system, actually.
Oh, cool. Nice. So I mean, then, so how does that work in Death Stranding 2?
So in Death Stranding 2, you have various skills like stealth, what was it? Stealth, carrying, balance. So as you're going through and your balance levels up, you know, it's easier to, you're not going to stumble as often. The stealth one, you could hold your breath longer, because when you hold your breath, you can sneak up onto the BTs, the ghosts. So the more you're doing that and sneaking up on them and holding your breath, the better you're going to be able to hold your breath, so you can hold your breath longer. So there's less risk because you can do it from further away. The more you use certain guns, you would level up with them. So then, like, for instance, if you've played like an FPS or any kind of game, third-person shooter, you notice when you shoot the gun, usually they'll have like a small reticle and it will grow and it'll kind of show you like, oh yeah, your shots are going to land in here. But the more you would use certain weapons, you know, that wouldn't grow so large, or it wouldn't grow as quickly. So you become more accurate with certain weapons as you use them. So yeah, it definitely had that. It wasn't like a huge thing, and if you weren't really paying attention, you probably didn't even really notice it, because it only really shows up in a certain menu. It doesn't tell you when you're, maybe it does tell you when you're leveling up, but yeah, I did use that system.
Very nice. I did know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Moving on to question number 2. The Helldivers 2 studio CEO says, the vast majority of people soundly play the shooter, which means the devs can't just look at Reddit and what streamers are saying for feedback. This is a challenge for all games.
Yeah, I think this is a challenge for everything in life, really. When you don't get that verbal feedback, you can't read people's minds, right? It's the stereotype of the husband, and then the wife comes in and he's like, I don't know what you want because you're not telling me what you want. And she's like, you should know what I want. It's like that, right? You know, like the devs, if you're not telling them what you want, they don't know. I think a good example would be something like if maybe they, you know, if nobody's saying anything, but there's a certain gun that's getting used a lot. So they're going to say, okay, people like this gun. It's a great gun. So, you know, we're going to leave it the way it is because it's fine. Everybody's using it. But that might not be the case. It might just be that that gun is just the most effective weapon. And people actually are like, I don't really like it. It's not a lot of fun, but it's the most efficient way to play. So I just keep using it. And if without feedback, all they have is the numbers that everybody's using this weapon. So this weapon must be a great weapon. And they might end up nerfing it because they're like, oh, we need to balance out other things. So people are like, oh, but it was already something I wasn't enjoying. So yeah, definitely having that communication is a big deal. And it's not just for this. I mean, even with like a YouTube channel, right? If I make a video, I can see how many people watch the video. I can see how many likes the videos get. But I don't know what people necessarily liked about the video. So I don't necessarily know in my next video, you know, was it the subject matter? Did they like the game we covered? Did they like the humor? Is that what they enjoyed? Did they like the tangents? Some people like it when you go on tangents. Some people don't like it when you go on tangents. You know, so like you can't really adjust your style or adapt your style. You know, you could just kind of be like, well, this worked or this didn't. So I guess I just do the exact same thing next time, rather than taking the parts that worked and getting rid of the parts that don't. It's just all one big lump sum. So definitely, if you can, you know, communicate verbally.
100% agree. And I know as somebody who's pretty busy, it's really a pain to do so. And I tend to only do it when I'm like, oh my God, I really have to say something. And by that time, it's usually too late. I find when it comes to gaming, sometimes to express an opinion about, oh my God, this game has gone in a really weird and horrible direction. Why? So definitely, I 100% agree with Adam's advice is spend that 30 seconds, you know, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, like, yes, 30 seconds, but I know there's the action of logging in, of posting a comment, of then seeing notifications about that comment of people who disagree with you. Even on Steam, when you post a review about something, you know, people will see likes and dislikes, and Steam will send you these endless notifications, and notifications stress people out. I get it. But it is something you should try to do at least. Especially if there's something you're really passionate about, like the Helldivers game, or a game like Metal Eden, where, you know, someone took a risk to come out and make this game, and you're like, I want to support this game. And the more you interact, right, from an algorithmic perspective, the more the algorithms are like, okay, wow, people are talking about this. We should show this game to more people. From the Steam side, from the video side, we should show this game to more people too. So definitely worth it.
Yeah, but be tactful. People have feelings. There's a real person on the other end reading that.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
I mean, obviously, if you have a compliment, that's great. But if you have a complaint, be tactful. You know, don't be super mean.
Yeah. I mean,
and be tactful when it comes to commenting on other people's comments as well, because, you know, maybe you disagree with their comments, and you disagree with what they say, but no need to start a fight over it.
I totally agree. All right. Adam, what have you been streaming recently? Because I've seen stuff. I just don't know what is the game.
I've been streaming Mekarashi.
Still Mekarashi. Got it.
Still Mekarashi. I was doing. I just passed the 30-hour mark, which is what I wanted to do for my full video. The goal was, you know, 2, 10, and 30-hour mark. So I've just passed the 30-hour mark on the last stream. So, I'll probably continue streaming it a little bit, just because the next game that I want to play is Silent Hill F, which doesn't come out until September 20 something. So I still got a couple weeks on that. So I need something to fill in between then and now. I've completely finished the expedition on No Man's Sky. I played it. I did it. A lot of fun. Very buggy. They did make, I mean, there's some huge changes to get the Corvettes to work. They are, as they describe them, flying buildings. So they had to figure out a way to get a building to fly. So they did have to change a lot. The bugs that I've encountered, I originally encountered one where a certain drive would not delete when you were doing construction of your thing. So you basically had to reset your Corvette. That has been patched out, so that's fixed. The other bugs that I've run into is, you know, if you leave the pilot seat and you're just wandering around, occasionally it'll just launch you out of your ship and your ship goes flying off into the wild blue yonder and you're just chilling out in space, which is pretty easy to do. You just summon it back, it'll come back. No big deal. That wasn't a huge deal. Just a weird thing. But my biggest problem was it happened 3 times in a sense. It happened one time when approaching a frigate, and it happened twice when approaching a space station, where it didn't fly into the space station, it flew into the space station. So I was like flying around on the inside of the space station, can't land, can't get out of it, and the only way to get out was basically just to run around and crash my ship a bunch of times until it blew up, and then I lost everything I had, and I couldn't recover it because the recovery point is somewhere inside that ship where I can't reach it. So I had a bunch of Corvette modules on my Corvette at the time, lost them all because my ship blew up, and so that was very unfortunate. So and then also there was a bug for a while where you would trade in parts and you would give the parts, but you wouldn't give the part you traded for. So you were just throwing away parts. So eventually I just switched over to creative mode, and I'm like, if I'm just going to do this and I'm losing parts left and right and there's nothing, I'm going to go to creative mode and build my Corvette without any rules. So that's what I did, and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun building it. I do wish they would let you save your Corvette. I do wish they would let you save your designs, because currently you can only have one at a time. So I built mine, and I'm like, I like it. I would like to experiment with some other builds, but to do that, I would have to completely erase my Corvette, and then I it entirely. So I do wish that they would allow for maybe having multiple designs that you could have. But unfortunately, that's not currently possible, or that's not currently available. But I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. But I'm done with that, so I can't stream that. So then I've been mostly just playing Final Fantasy XIV.
Final Fantasy, always a good choice for our channel.
Yeah, but I'm not a raider, and I'm not a master crafter. So in fact, I'm leveling up my carpentry right now. Is what I'm doing. So it's not super exciting. It's just going off into was it cosmic exploration and just 3 of these. Okay, great. Build 3 of these. Okay, great. Build 3 of these. Okay, great. Yay, level. So, not very exciting, but for me it's fun. But I don't think it'd be fun to watch.
Okay. And on that note, thank you as always for tuning in. We apologize for missing last week, but we will for sure be here next week. And then see you guys then.